The account's empty. I moved it somewhere safe. Me and her were starting fresh in another state. I was standing in my kitchen when Brennan said those words to me over the phone, and I watched the screen in front of me showing zero where $180,000 used to be. 18 years. Every birthday check, every bonus, every extra hour I worked stocking shelves at the grocery store while he climbed his way up the finance ladder. Our daughter's future turned into nothing by 22 words spoken like he was discussing what to order for dinner. His voice sounded lighter than it had in months, almost cheerful, and that broke something inside me deeper than the words themselves. He was happy about destroying us. Who's her? I asked, even though my body already knew. My knees wanted to give out, but I locked them straight. Someone who actually appreciates me. We're done, Hollis. The papers are in the mail. He hung up before I could respond. Just ended the call like we were strangers, like 12 years of marriage, and a daughter who worshipped him meant less than whatever fantasy he'd built with someone else. I stood there holding my phone, staring at that zero, and my brain couldn't connect what I was seeing with what was real. This was the money we'd been building since Lennox was born. The money that was supposed to mean she wouldn't start her adult life drowning in debt like we did. And he just took it, and walked away, and sounded relieved. Before I go any further into what happened next, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're listening from, because what my 12-year-old daughter did about this situation, it worked because of laws in our state that might be different where you are. And if you've ever felt that moment when someone you trusted completely just rips the ground out from under you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how this ends, because I promise you, nobody saw this coming. Not him, not me, not even the lawyers, especially not the lawyers. My name is Hollis, and before all of this, I thought I had a decent understanding of my life. I'm 34. I work at a grocery store, have for 9 years now, and I'm good at it. I know every price code. I know which customers want to chat and which ones want speed. I know how to calm down angry people who think expired coupons should still work. It's honest work, even if Brennan stopped seeing it that way around year 7. He worked in corporate finance for a mid-size investment firm, made 6 times what I made, and somewhere along the way started treating me like I was part of the furniture. Useful for keeping the house running, but not particularly interesting to look at or talk to anymore. We had Lennox when I was 22 and he was 24. We weren't ready. Not even a little bit, but we figured it out, or I thought we did. She was an intense baby who became an intense toddler who became an intense kid. By age 3, she was teaching herself to read by memorizing patterns on cereal boxes and street signs. By age 5, she'd taken apart our old radio to see how it worked and actually put it back together. By age 8, she'd taught herself basic coding through library books and free online tutorials, staying up until 2 in the morning until I had to create a rule about electronics after 9. Her teachers used words like gifted and exceptional, and then, around age 10, anxious and obsessive. She'd have panic attacks over small things, convinced that tiny mistakes would lead to catastrophic consequences. We started therapy. Her therapist, Dr. Yoon, explained that Lennox's brain was wired to see patterns and problems everywhere, to game out every possible scenario, and that her intelligence made it worse because she could imagine more ways for things to go wrong. She was learning to manage it, slowly, learning that she couldn't control everything, couldn't fix everything, couldn't protect everyone from every possible hurt, and then she had to try to protect us from her own father. It was mid-September when things started falling apart, though I didn't know it yet. Brennan had been distant for months, but I told myself it was work stress. He'd been coming home later, going to the gym more, buying new clothes. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I'd been married long enough to know that sometimes pointing out every little thing just starts fights that go nowhere, so I waited for him to talk to me when he was ready. I thought he'd talk to me. I thought we still had that much between us. Lennox noticed too, but she didn't wait. She couldn't. Her brain doesn't work that way. She sees a problem and immediately starts trying to solve it, trying to game out solutions, trying to protect against the worst possible outcome. And one night in mid-September, around 10:30, she was in her bedroom doing homework when she heard her father's voice coming up through the heating vent. His office was directly below her room. Old house, thin walls, sound carries. She heard him laugh, low and warm, the way he used to laugh with me back when things were good. Then she heard him say, "Once I pull the money out, we're set. We can go anywhere. Start completely over." She froze, listened harder, heard a woman's voice through his phone speaker, tinny but audible, saying something about looking at apartments in another state. Heard her father say, "She won't even know until it's done. By the time she figures it out, we'll be gone." Lennox told me later, weeks later, that she sat on her bedroom floor for an hour after that, trying to convince herself she'd misunderstood, making up other explanations. Maybe he was talking about work money. Maybe the woman was a colleague. Maybe she meant someone else entirely. Her therapist had been working with her on not jumping to worst-case scenarios, on questioning her anxious thoughts, on considering other possibilities before assuming catastrophe. So she tried. She really tried to talk herself out of what she'd heard, but over the next week, she heard more, little pieces through the vent, through walls, through the bathroom door when he thought she was asleep. After the transfer goes through, the new account where she can't find it, finally free, and the woman's voice, always there, encouraging him, planning with him, laughing with him. Lennox didn't tell me any of it. She was 12 years old and terrified she was being paranoid again, seeing threats that weren't real, letting her anxiety spiral into disaster scenarios that existed only in her head. What if she was wrong? What if she told me her fears and it destroyed our marriage over nothing? What if she was the problem, the way she'd started to worry she always was? Instead, she tried to fix it herself, the way she always tries to fix things, by researching, by planning, by finding solutions to problems nobody else even knows exist yet. One morning in late September, she came downstairs while I was packing lunches and asked, casual as anything, if she could see the college fund statements. Said she'd been thinking about college costs and wanted to understand how much was actually there. I thought it was a little odd, but Lennox had been asking more questions about her future lately, about universities and majors and whether we'd saved enough. So I pulled up the account on my laptop and showed her. $178,000 and change at that point. Joint account in my name and Brennan's name, with Lennox listed as beneficiary. She studied the screen for 20 minutes, taking a picture with her phone, zooming in on the fine print, reading terms and conditions I'd never bothered with. Then she thanked me and went quiet. That kind of deep, processing quiet she gets when her brain is chewing on something big. For the next 3 weeks, Lennox researched during every spare moment, during lunch hour at school, during study periods, late at night, when she should have been sleeping. I thought she was working on some school project she hadn't mentioned. She researched educational trusts, custodial accounts, state financial protection laws, beneficiary rights, everything she could find about how college funds work and how they can be protected. She read legal websites meant for adults, government pages explaining new state programs, forums where lawyers answered questions for free. She found something, a program our state had launched just 8 months earlier, something called Protected Education Savings. It was designed to safeguard college funds for minors in cases where there was risk of financial instability or potential misuse. The program allowed one parent to convert an existing college fund into a protected status if they could demonstrate financial risk factors. Once converted, the funds locked until the beneficiary turned 18, with early access requiring court approval and documented educational emergency. The beneficiary gained partial control at 16, full control at 18. But here was the key detail Lennox discovered, buried in the program documentation. If money was withdrawn from a newly converted protected account within 30 days of conversion, the state's financial protection unit received an automatic fraud alert. They had authority to freeze suspicious transfers for 48 hours, while investigating potential theft or misappropriation of funds meant for a minor's education. My daughter read those words and understood what I would never have understood. She saw a way to protect us, so she wrote me a letter. Not a text, not an email. A real letter in her small, careful handwriting, with words crossed out where she'd changed her mind, with smudges where her hand had dragged through pencil marks. She wrote it during study hall, folded it into a tiny square, and left it on my pillow before school one morning. I found it that afternoon, 3 weeks before Brennan left. "Mom, I need you to trust me. I think Dad might do something bad with my college money. I know this sounds crazy, I know you'll think I'm being paranoid again. Maybe I am. But please, just in case, could you go to the bank and ask about converting my account to a protected education savings? Tell them you're worried about financial security. Please. I'm probably wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But please do this anyway. I love you. I read it twice. My stomach twisted. Then I told myself she was overthinking again, spinning disaster scenarios out of nothing the way her anxious brain sometimes does. Her therapist had warned me about this, about how Lennox sometimes fixates on potential threats that aren't actually real. We'd been working with her on it for 2 years. I almost threw the letter away. But I didn't. Something stopped me. Maybe I'd noticed things too. Things I didn't want to admit to myself. The way Brennan barely spoke to me anymore. The new clothes. The late nights. The way he looked at his phone like it held something precious he was hiding. Maybe part of me already knew and just didn't want to face it. I went to the bank 2 days later, telling myself I was humoring my daughter's anxiety. The banker, a tired-looking woman named Ruth, explained the Protected Education Savings Program while I sat in her office feeling ridiculous. She said it would lock the funds until Lennox turned 18. She said early withdrawal would require court involvement. She said it was designed for situations where there was genuine concern about fund security. Is there genuine concern? And Ruth asked me directly, and I froze. I don't know, I told Ruth honestly. My daughter thinks there might be. She's very perceptive, but she also worries about things that sometimes don't happen. Ruth looked at me for a long moment. Well, it's free to convert. No downside except the withdrawal. Restrictions. And if your daughter is worried enough to ask you to do this, maybe that tells you something. I signed the papers. The conversion would take 5 to 7 business days to process fully, Ruth explained. During that time, the account would show as in transition, but would still function normally. After the conversion completed, the protections would activate. I drove home feeling strange, feeling like I'd just done something significant but not understanding what. I didn't tell Brennan. I told myself it was because he'd just dismiss Lennox's concerns, call her paranoid, get angry that I'd entertained her anxiety instead of helping her reality test it. But maybe I didn't tell him because some part of me was already preparing for something I couldn't name yet. Lennox asked me about it that night, quiet and careful. Did you go to the bank? I did. They're converting the account. It'll be done by next week. She nodded, face unreadable. Thank you for trusting me. Are you going to tell me what's really going on? I don't know if anything's going on. I just needed to make sure we were safe, just in case. The conversion completed on October 11th. I got an email confirmation. The account now showed as Protected Education Savings, with all the restrictions Ruth had explained. Brennan never checked the college fund. He hadn't looked at it in over a year. That was always my job, tracking our savings, planning for Lennox's future. He just earned the money and assumed it was all going where it should. 6 days later, October 17th, Brennan came home at 9 in the evening, smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He walked past me without speaking, went to his office, closed the door. I heard him on the phone for an hour, voice too low to make out words. When he finally came to bed around midnight, he stayed on the far edge of the mattress, as far from me as possible without falling off. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. Left a note on the kitchen counter saying he had an early meeting and would be out late again. When I checked our joint banking app around noon, I saw a withdrawal from our main checking account. $12,000. Moved to an account I didn't recognize. I called him. He didn't answer. I called again an hour later. Again 2 hours after that. He finally picked up at 6 in the evening. What's the $12,000 for? I asked. No greeting. No warmth. Business expense. I'll explain later. Business expense to an account I've never seen before? Hollis, I don't have time for this right now. We'll talk this weekend. We didn't talk that weekend. He came home Saturday afternoon, packed a suitcase while I watched from the bedroom doorway, and said he needed some space to think. Said he'd be staying at a friend's apartment for a few days. Lennox was at a library event and didn't see him leave. I didn't stop him, just watched him walk out the front door with his suitcase and his laptop bag and that same relieved expression he'd had on his face earlier in the week. Monday morning, October 22nd, I checked our accounts again. The college fund showed zero, completely empty. $178,000. Gone in a single transfer made at 9:14 on Saturday morning while I was still asleep and he was packing his suitcase. That's when he called. That's when he said those words about the account being empty and moving somewhere safe and starting fresh with her in another state. That's when my legs finally gave out and I ended up on the kitchen floor, staring at my phone, trying to understand how a person could do this to their own child. Lennox found me there 2 hours later. She came home from school at 3:30, walked in through the side door because the bus drops her off in the back, and saw me still sitting on the floor in the exact same spot. She dropped her backpack. "Mom? What happened?" I couldn't make words work properly yet, just held up my phone showing the 0 balance. She knelt down next to me, took the phone from my shaking hands, and looked at the screen for a long time. Her face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, fear, and then something else. Something calculating. When did the transfer happen? Her voice was steady in a way mine wasn't. Saturday morning. Early. What day did the account finish converting to protected status? October 11th. Why? She pulled out her own phone, fingers moving fast, pulling up something. That's 16 days. Still inside the 30-day window. What 30-day window? Lennox, what are you talking about? She looked at me with those serious, dark eyes that have always made her seem older than she is. When I researched the Protected Education Savings Program, I found out they have automatic fraud monitoring. If money gets withdrawn from a newly converted account within 30 days, it triggers an alert to the State Financial Protection Unit. They can freeze the transfer while they investigate. My brain felt sluggish, like I was hearing her through water. Can freeze it? Or will freeze it? The documentation said they have the authority to freeze it automatically for 48 hours, but I don't know if they actually do it for every case or only some cases. I don't know if 16 days is suspicious enough. I don't know if Dad withdrawing his own money counts as fraud even though it's supposed to be for me. Her voice started shaking. Mom, I don't know if it worked. I just knew we needed to try something. Baby, what else did you do? She was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled a notebook out of her backpack. Purple cover, spiral bound, the kind she uses for school. But when she opened it, I saw it wasn't school notes. It was dates and times and observations, all in her small handwriting. September 19th, 10:45 at night. Heard Dad on phone in his office. Said, once the transfer goes through and new account. Woman's voice responded but couldn't hear exact words. September 23rd, 9:15 at night. Dad said he was going to the gym, but family location app showed him at an address on Westfield Avenue. Stayed there until 11:30. Took screenshot. October 2nd, 8:20 at night. Heard Dad tell someone on the phone. She won't even know until we're gone. Tried to record it, but phone was in other room. Wrote down exact words instead. Page after page. A month of her father's betrayal, documented by a 12-year-old who was terrified she was being paranoid, who kept second-guessing herself in the margins. Some entries had notes like, maybe misheard, or could mean something else, or probably just work stuff. But she'd written it all down anyway, just in case her worst fears were real. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, and my voice cracked. Because what if I was wrong? What if I was just being anxious again, seeing problems that weren't there? Doctor, Yoon has been helping me learn not to catastrophize, not to assume the worst, not to let my anxiety create disasters out of normal things. What if this was just my anxiety lying to me? What if I told you and it destroyed your marriage over nothing and it was all my fault? She was crying now, really crying, and I pulled her against me on that kitchen floor and held her while we both fell apart. I called someone too, she whispered after a while. Last week, a lawyer. I found one online who does free consultations. I used the phone in the school office during lunch. Told the secretary I needed to call my mom, but my phone was dead. Then I called the lawyer instead. You called a lawyer? By yourself? I was so scared, Mom. I didn't know what else to do. I explained everything I'd heard, everything I'd documented. The lawyer, her name was Patricia. She listened to everything, and then she said it sounded serious. She said it sounded like possible financial misconduct and I should have my mom call her directly. She said she'd call you too. Did she? I remembered then. 3 days ago, a missed call from a number I didn't recognize. A voicemail from someone named Patricia saying she needed to discuss an urgent family matter, asking me to call back. I'd assumed it was spam. Some scam caller using a real-sounding name. I'd meant to call back just to tell them to stop, but I'd been busy with work and forgot. She called. I didn't call back. I thought it was fake. Lennox's face crumpled. I tried. I tried so hard to protect us, and I don't even know if any of it worked. I called the bank right then, still sitting on the floor, asked for Ruth. She wasn't there, but another banker looked up our account. There was a flag on it, he said. Something about a state investigation. He transferred me to someone else, who transferred me to someone else, until finally I reached a woman at the State Financial Protection Unit who explained what had happened. The withdrawal had triggered an automatic alert at 11:03 Saturday morning, less than 2 hours after Brennan made the transfer. The system flagged it as high risk because of the amount, the timing relative to the conversion date, and the destination account being newly opened. The state unit froze the transfer at 2:17 Saturday afternoon. The money was currently being held in a temporary state protection account pending investigation. Neither Brennan nor I could access it. Not yet. How long does the investigation take? I asked. Typically 48 to 72 hours for initial review. But if we find evidence of fraud or financial misconduct, it can take longer. Has there been any indication of marital discord or financial impropriety? My husband left me on Saturday, took the money and left for another woman in another state. Silence on the other end. Then, I see. Have you filed for any legal protections? No, not yet, but my daughter contacted a lawyer. I can call her back. I'd recommend doing that immediately. If you file for emergency financial protection and custody modification, it strengthens the case for keeping the funds frozen during the legal proceedings. I called Patricia, the lawyer, the moment I hung up with the state. Explained everything, my words tumbling over each other. Patricia listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she said 6 words that felt like the first solid ground I'd stood on in days. Your daughter might have saved you. The paperwork happened fast after that. Emergency filing for full custody, financial protection orders, fraud investigation documentation. Patricia said Lennox's notebook was remarkable evidence, the kind of detailed documentation that usually comes from private investigators, not children. The fact that a 12-year-old had been frightened enough to track her own father's movements said something powerful about the situation. We filed everything on Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, the state investigation had expanded. They weren't just looking at the college fund withdrawal anymore. They were examining Brennan's other financial activities, his bank accounts, his recent transfers. The $12,000 that had disappeared from our checking account the week before showed up as a deposit into an account belonging to someone named Simone, same woman whose address Lennox had tracked him to multiple times in September. Wednesday, nothing happened. Brennan didn't call, didn't come by. I kept expecting him to show up, to demand answers, to fight back, but there was silence. Thursday morning at 6:43, my phone rang. Brennan's number. I almost didn't answer, but Lennox was already awake, sitting at the kitchen counter eating cereal before school, and she looked at me with those knowing eyes. Answer it, she said quietly. He's figured it out by now. I answered the call and put it on speaker. Lennox stopped eating. Spoon, frozen halfway to her mouth. What happened to the money? Brennan's voice sounded different, frantic, desperate. Nothing like the calm, cheerful tone he'd used when he told me he was leaving. The bank says there's a freeze. They're saying something about a state protection order and an investigation. They won't let me access anything. Did you do this? The state did it, I said, keeping my voice flat. Automatic fraud protection. It triggered when you tried to steal our daughter's college fund. Steal? It's my money too. I'm her father. I have every right to that account. You had rights to that account. Past tense. It's protected now. Protected how? What did you do? I converted it to protected education savings 3 weeks ago. Before you made your move, when you transferred the money out, it triggered an automatic fraud alert because the account had just been converted. The state froze everything. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, in a voice that was barely more than a whisper, 3 weeks ago? But I didn't even. How did you know? I didn't, but someone else did. Who? That lawyer? Did someone tip you off? Is that why you suddenly decided to protect the account right before I... No lawyer tipped me off, Brennan. No one told me you were planning to abandon your family. I converted that account because our 12-year-old daughter asked me to. More silence. I could hear him breathing, sharp and quick. Lennox? His voice cracked on her name. Let me talk to her. Is she there? I looked at my daughter. She was pale, staring at the phone like it might bite her. but she nodded slowly and reached for it. I slid it across the counter to her. "Hi, Dad." Her voice was so small, so young. Nothing like the determined kid who'd spent weeks researching legal protections and tracking his movements. "Sweetie, listen to me. Daddy made some mistakes. Big ones. I know that now. But we can fix this, okay? If you tell the state that you want me to have access to the money, they'll release it. You're the beneficiary. Your word matters. Can you do that for me?" Lennox looked at me, then down at her cereal bowl. "Are you coming home?" The question hung in the air. I watched my daughter's face, watched her hoping for an answer she probably already knew wasn't coming. "It's complicated right now, honey. There are some things I need to work out first. But if you help me with this money situation, we can figure everything else out later. So, no. You're not coming home. Sweetheart, you stole from me." Her voice was shaking now, but getting stronger. "You were going to leave us with nothing. You were going to take everything we saved for my future and just disappear with someone else. And now, you want me to help you? You don't understand the situation. I have real problems now. They're talking about criminal charges, theft from a minor, violation of something called fiduciary duty. Your mother's lawyer is making everything worse. And if we don't—" "I called the lawyer," Lennox interrupted. "Not Mom. Me. I'm the one who found her and called her and told her everything. I'm the one who asked Mom to convert the account. I did all of it." The phone went so quiet I thought the call had dropped. Then Brennan's voice came back, different again, harder. "You did this? You're 12 years old. You couldn't have possibly understood what you were doing." "I understood that I heard you planning to take all my college money and leave us. I understood that I needed to protect Mom and myself because you weren't going to. I understood more than you thought I could. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? What this means? I can't access any of my accounts now. The state flagged everything while they investigate. I can't pay for the apartment I rented. I can't pay my bills. I'm sitting here with nothing because my own daughter decided to play lawyer and destroy her father's life." Tears were streaming down Lennox's face, but she kept talking. "Did you think about what you were doing to my life when you took all that money? Did you think about Mom's life? Did you think about us at all?" "Of course I thought about you. I was going to send money back once I got settled. I wasn't going to abandon you financially. But you were going to abandon us every other way. That's supposed to be better?" "The woman," he said suddenly. "Simone. She's gone. She left. When she found out the money was frozen. When everything fell apart. When I couldn't give her the life I promised. I'm alone in this apartment I can't afford. With accounts I can't access. Facing charges I can't pay a lawyer to defend against. And it's because of what you did." Lennox was sobbing now, the phone shaking in her hand. "I gave you chances. In my head, I gave you so many chances. Every night for 3 weeks I heard you planning this, and every night I hoped you'd change your mind, that you'd stop, that you'd remember you had people who loved you. I waited and waited before I did anything because I kept thinking you'd come back to us on your own. I need you to fix this. Call the state. Call the lawyer. Tell them this was all a misunderstanding." "Was it a misunderstanding? Did you not actually take the money and leave us?" He was crying too now. I could hear it. "I don't know what I was thinking. I got caught up in something and I made terrible choices and now everything is ruined. Please, I'm begging you. I need help. I don't know how to help you, Dad. I don't know how to fix what's broken now." She ended the call and collapsed into herself, shoulders shaking with sobs. I held her while she cried. This child who'd tried to be so strong, who'd carried so much alone, who'd made choices no 12-year-old should ever have to make. The investigation took 8.5 months. 8 months of lawyers and depositions and court appearances. 8 months of Brennan calling sometimes, begging, other times angry, threatening to sue us for damages. 8 months of Lennox in therapy twice a week instead of once, working through guilt and fear and the weight of what she'd done. Patricia, our lawyer, explained that what Brennan had done qualified as multiple offenses: theft from a minor, violation of fiduciary duty as a parent, fraudulent transfer of protected educational funds. The prosecutor wanted to make an example of the case because the new Protected Education Savings Program was so recent. They wanted people to know that stealing your child's college money had real consequences. Brennan took a plea deal in month 6, guilty plea to reduce charges in exchange for probation instead of prison time, 3 years probation, mandatory financial counseling, supervised visitation with Lennox, and full restitution. Every penny he'd tried to take, plus penalties and legal fees. The total came to just over $200,000, to be paid in monthly installments of $1,500 for the next 11 years. The money came back to us in month 7. Not to the original account, but to a new one. In my name only, with Lennox as irrevocable beneficiary. Protected status, permanently attached. Her college fund, whole again. Even slightly larger because of the penalties added. But the money was the easy part. The rest was harder. Brennan lost his job in month 3 of the investigation. His firm didn't want the liability, the bad press, the complications. He found new work eventually, but nothing at the level he'd had before. He's working 2 jobs now, one in accounting at a small medical office, another doing bookkeeping on weekends, living in a studio apartment in a cheaper part of town, driving the same car he had before, but now it's 7 years old, and making concerning noises he can't afford to fix. He calls Lennox every Sunday at 7 in the evening. She answers about half the time. They're in family therapy together, court-mandated at first, but they've chosen to continue it. Some weeks the sessions go well. Brennan apologizes. Lennox talks about her feelings. They make small progress. Other weeks, Lennox shuts down completely. Won't speak, won't engage. Sits in the therapist's office staring at her hands while Brennan tries desperately to reach her. He asked to come to her 13th birthday dinner 2 months ago. We were at a casual restaurant. Nothing fancy. Just Lennox and me and my parents. He showed up exactly when we'd agreed. Brought a gift he'd clearly spent too much money on given his financial situation. A laptop she'd wanted for coding. Way better than we could afford. Lennox opened it and started crying. Not happy crying. The kind of crying that comes from something breaking open inside you. "I don't know how to accept this from you," she told him. "I don't know how to take expensive things from you when I know you're struggling to pay Mom back. I don't know how to let you try to make me happy when you're the reason." Everything got so hard. He returned the laptop the next day, brought her a card instead, with a letter inside. She keeps it in her desk drawer. Won't tell me what it says. I don't push. She's 14 now, not 13 like I said before. Time keeps moving whether we're ready or not. Still reading legal websites, still teaching herself complicated things. But Dr. Yoon says she's making genuine progress. She's learning to let some things go. Learning that she can't control everything, can't prevent every bad thing, can't protect everyone from every hurt. She joined a coding club at school, made some friends who understand the way her brain works. Still has bad weeks where the anxiety takes over, but more good weeks now than bad. Last month she asked me, "Do you think I destroyed Dad's life?" We were folding laundry together, routine and normal, and the question came out of nowhere. "I think he made choices that destroyed his own life," I said. "And I think you made choices that protected us." Both things are true. But if I hadn't done all that research, if I hadn't converted the account, if I hadn't documented everything and called that lawyer, maybe he'd be okay now. Maybe he'd still have his job and his apartment and his life wouldn't be so hard. And maybe we'd have nothing. Maybe we'd be the ones struggling while he started a new life somewhere else, with money he stole from your future. She folded a shirt in silence, smoothing out wrinkles with careful fingers. "I just wish he'd chosen us instead. Then I wouldn't have had to choose anything at all." That's what she comes back to, over and over. The wish that she'd never had to make those choices. The wish that her father had been the person she thought he was. The wish that she could just be a kid who doesn't know about legal protections and fraud alerts and how to document evidence of betrayal. But she did have to choose, and she chose to protect us. And yes, it cost him everything. And yes, it cost her something too. A piece of her childhood that she can't get back. A certainty about her father that's gone forever. A lightness she used to have that's heavier now. She's learning to carry it. We both are. If this story hit you somewhere deep, if you've ever had to make impossible choices to protect yourself or someone you love, leave a comment. Tell me you understand. Tell me where you are, what you're going through, because none of us should carry these things alone. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this, real things that happen to real people trying to survive impossible situations. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's facing their own impossible choice, share this with them. Sometimes we need to know that other people have been here too, have survived too, have come out the other side still standing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for understanding that some stories don't have perfectly happy endings, but we tell them anyway because they're true.